Hi everybody, I hope you're all doing brilliantly. I thought I would do a quick-ish video about one of my favourite things, which is vintage clothing and vintage accessories. At the moment, there's a lot of talk out there about second-hand September. You might have seen it on Instagram, and it's where lots of us are trying to encourage more people to consider buying vintage and pre-loved clothing. So I thought today was just the perfect time to talk to you about why I personally love buying vintage clothing and why I always recommend it to my styling clients as well. So let's chat through some of the main reasons why it's such a good idea. Okay, so the first reason is that it's better for the planet. Oops, and that's my earring. Okay, we'll just keep that on. These things happen when we're filming, don't they? So the first thing is it's better for the planet. We all know, unfortunately, that our planet is in a great deal of trouble. We've seen all the things that are happening across the world in the news, and sadly, the retail industry, the fashion retail industry, is known as one of the worst polluters on the planet. So therefore, as consumers, I believe we have a responsibility to shop more mindfully and to shop in a much more sustainable way. And vintage enables you to do this perfectly, because when you buy a vintage piece of clothing, a vintage bag, you are preventing those pieces from ending up in landfill, and you're giving them a new lease of life, adding them to your wardrobe, and finding something really special and unique to wear, love and cherish. So that's the main reason. Second reason is financially, it just makes really good sense. It's so much kinder on your wallet buying vintage and pre-loved than it is buying from the high street or from a designer. So it's just better financially. Third reason, typically when you're buying something vintage, you're either buying from a vintage seller or from someone who's had a clear out, which means that it's just a lovely way to shop and spend your money, because your money is going to either a small business or to a fellow human, instead of these global retailers who we all know, sadly, many of them don't even pay their workers the wages that they should. So it's just a lovely way of spending your money and putting your money out there. And the fourth and final reason, and the most important reason style-wise, is that buying vintage enables you to find something that talks to you and to your style personality, and just to find something special and unique that not only will you cherish, but that nobody else will have out there. Okay, so some really good reasons there why you should certainly at least consider choosing vintage. Okay, should we have a little look at some of my favourite pieces? So some of the pieces I've got here on the rail are pieces that I bought over the past few years. Still can't get over the fact that I've lost an earring whilst filming, but we will carry on. Okay, so first of all, I'm going to share with you a couple pieces that I've actually bought this month for second-hand September. So this is the first one. This was an eBay purchase. I love the colours, some of the colours in my autumn palette. I love the bold stripe and the kind of checkerboard print. This is beautiful. It's an Italian piece, and honestly, it doesn't even look like it's ever been worn. It's in such good condition. And that was about, I think it was $12.99 on eBay, so cheap as chips. The next one arrived a few days ago. This is actually a Jaeger, I think that's how you pronounce it, a Jaeger, vintage Jaeger piece. It's a masculine shirt, but done in a really feminine way. So you can see it's got this beautiful fabric. It comes with this lovely versatile tie, which means I can wear it in lots of different ways. I was actually going to wear this yesterday for a styling appointment, and then typically I put some deodorant on and it marked the blouse. It left a mark and it drove me potty. So it needs to go in the wash before I wear that. But yeah, that was another one, really cheap. I think that was £15 including postage. I mean, crazy prices for beautiful blouses of that quality. This is one I bought over the summer. I love romantic pretty blouses and shirts, and this one just fits the bill perfectly. This was £10 in the sale from an Instagram vintage seller. And yeah, it's beautiful. It's actually a little bit small for me, this one. So I can do up the buttons, but they kind of pull a bit. But I love it so much, I just wear it open over like a silky camisole and it just works really well. So there's that one there. And then we'll move on to a colourful piece. So this one is actually a cool purple, so not my colours, as a warm toned autumn lady. But I loved it so much when I spotted it on Instagram, I think it was. I had to have it. This one was quite a bit more in terms of price. It was about £40. It's actually a handmade vintage piece and it fits me like a dream. It's so beautiful. It's got the most beautiful shoulders and pleating detail over the bust, and then it kind of nips you in around the waist. And I just always feel so elegant wearing it. So yeah, that's another much loved piece, even though it's not in my colours too. Shows you how much I love it. Let's go to the 70s. So I've got this 70s shirt here. This is actually a vintage piece that I've worn quite a lot over the past few years. And it's got a small vintage dagger collar. It's quite a bodycon number, this. Many vintage items of clothing don't have much stretch in the fabric, and that's just because, you know, the fabrics that we have today generally have a lot more stretch in giving them. So that can be a bit of a shock and something to consider alongside sizing. So I'm sure many of you will be aware, but vintage sizes are generally a lot smaller than our sizes that we have currently. So think of that as well when you are buying. I would always err on the side of caution and either size up a little bit or ask the seller to take measurements and check them against yours, and then you won't go wrong. But this one is a rare vintage piece that actually does have, you can see there, some stretch in the fabric. So it's quite figure hugging, quite a sassy little number, this one. And yeah, I love it. I've worn that lots already. That one was about, I think it was about 17, 18 pounds, that one. So not much at all. And then finally, probably one of my favorite vintage pieces that I have. This one I bought in December last year from eBay. It's a vintage Gina Biccone blouse. Hopefully you can see the amazing rainbow kind of metallic, what do you call it, shapes. That's really bad phrasing, but hopefully you can see how beautiful it is and how all these metallic areas catch the light. So yeah, so I've worn that a couple times already. It's very, very rare I wear black, particularly under my face, because it does nothing for me. But I loved this blouse so much. When I saw it on eBay, I had to have it. And this was about £25 or so. And oh, yeah, just brings me joy, lots of joy. So that's blouses that I bought. And I do generally stick to blouses and shirts because I love wearing them. I think they're really versatile and I always feel fantastic in them. But you might prefer something like a dress. So here's a vintage dress I bought, I think over the spring. I haven't actually worn this yet. I have got a friend's birthday party next Saturday, so maybe it will be the time for it to come out. But I love this large paisley print. I love the sheen on the fabric. It's got lots of my autumn colours in it. This one actually did have a lining. And the lining was a little bit tight on my figure. Again, vintage fabrics not having stretch and sizing. So as you can see, I just kind of hacked the lining off and now it fits really, really nicely. So yeah, that's a beautiful dress. This one was about £45. And then my final piece of clothing, this is something I bought again a few months ago. I'd had my eye on this for a while, but it was quite expensive and I wasn't sure because it was a bit of a gamble, this dress. Anyway, it went into the sale. This vintage Instagram seller decided to put it in the sale and I just went for it. I took the gamble. I love the fabric. It's really, really beautiful. It's got the most amazing sleeves and this beautiful belt which goes around the waist. It is too long for me, so I am going to have the length altered. And I'm considering maybe even having kind of a split or a slit even put into the skirt to make it just feel more like me and a piece I would wear. I'm going to be honest, I've got no idea when, let's do that way, that's nicer, I'm ever going to wear this, but trust me, I will find an occasion to wear it because it's a really, really beautiful piece. So hopefully that gives you some idea of the kind of amazing pieces you can find out there. And you might look at some of these pieces and they might not speak to you, and that's absolutely fine and very normal because we're all very different. That was my cat meowing in the background. But the idea is that you can find pieces that you love, that you will feel amazing in, and cherish them and love them. And I have to say, I'm very fortunate. I've got many pieces in my wardrobe that I love. Most of the pieces in my wardrobe I love, which is how it should be. But the vintage pieces, some of which I've shown you, they're always up there in my favorites, without a doubt. I love them and cherish them. But if you are not into vintage clothing, or maybe you're unsure, you think it's a little bit risky, you know, you can always try dabbling, first of all, in vintage accessories, like a bag would help if I put it the right way. So this one was actually my wedding day bag, and this was from eBay, just a really pretty sequin little number. And then this one I've had for over 10-15 years as well. I think that was an eBay one too. This one here, hopefully you can see the sparkle. I've had that over 15 years, that bag. That was from a vintage fair. And if bags aren't your thing, consider belts. Vintage belts are amazing at adding interest and giving shape to an outfit, so that's always an option. That was about £12 from eBay. You can see this kind of running theme as to how cheap these pieces are. And then finally, if accessories are not your thing, then consider jewellery. So this is a recent one, a crystal necklace that I love. I was inspired by Sarah Jessica Parker because she wears lots of these kind of necklaces together and looks beautiful in them. That was less than £10. I can't remember, £6 or £7, something like that. And then finally, things like brooches. You know, there's all sorts, bangles, brooches, even earrings, whatever, you know, whatever floats your boat, so to speak. These two brooches belong to, sadly, a lady who's passed away, but she was very dear to me, and I do wear them a lot. And yes, finally, I was looking for this one. This was a little bee brooch that I bought from a vintage seller, which was just a few pounds as well. So hopefully that might inspire you. I know some people are a bit put off by vintage. They're scared of, you know, if things smell. My experience is that most pieces don't have any smell whatsoever, and if you buy from a proper vintage seller, they will clean them and launder them in the best possible way so they don't smell, but also that they, you know, remain intact. So I've never had that experience, but yeah, hopefully it just will inspire you to give it a go and to try, because it's just a wonderful way to shop for so many reasons, and as I say, to find that vintage treasure out there. So any questions at all, please feel free to DM me. I would love to hear about your vintage experiences. I would even more love, that doesn't really make sense, but you know what I'm trying to say. I would love even more to see any photographs of any vintage treasure you come across. Yeah, that will be wonderful, but we should all do more and shop more sustainably. So yeah, vintage for me is the way to go, I think. Right, thanks ever so much for tuning in if you've got here with me, and I'll see you all soon. Take care. Bye.